I'm just going to give you some instructions on your Unit 1 Summative Reading and Narrative. So your learning goal is, I will select and use the most appropriate reading comprehension strategy while reading the short story and identify the most important details in the text. Your success criteria is I can identify the main details and supporting details in the text, make inferences while reading the text, make connections while reading the text, analyze and interpret the text for new meaning, include specific details in writing tasks, edit and revise writing tasks. Before reading. So in your notebook, you're going to answer the following questions that are basically connections to a main theme in the short story On the Sidewalk Bleeding by Evan Hunter. So, in your notebook, you will answer 1. When you form impressions of people you first meet, what kinds of things do you consider? Their looks, clothing, where they are, what they are doing, etc. Number 2, what do you think people consider about you when they first meet you and form an impression? Number 3, how would you answer the question, who are you? Now that you're finished your pre-reading questions, you will move on to actually reading the text, which is your during reading section. So your first link here is the text plus your post-reading questions. You're responsible for your post-reading questions as well, as you will see in the assignment. So we would open up the text. As you can see, it's open here. Has quite a few pages of reading, and at the very end are 7 questions that you are responsible for completing and submitting with your summative assessment. It's part of your summative assessment. So, as you read, you are going to complete the following 4 activities. Identify the exposition, rising action, conflict, climax, falling action, and resolution. When you're considering conflict, you're not telling me what the conflict is, you're telling me what type of conflict it is. Is it a person versus person, person versus society, or person versus themselves? While you're reading, you're going to write down 2 questions you have. You're going to write down 2 predictions you made while reading. And finally, you're going to answer the question, would you have helped Andy? Why or why not? When considering number 3, a prediction means you're guessing what might happen next. So as you're reading, you might think to yourself, this might happen, that might happen, or so forth. Write those predictions down, and they will count as your 2 predictions. You will post your answers in the following discussion forum. Go to the discussion forum. As we can see, On the Sidewalk Bleeding, and here are your questions. You're responsible for completing this section of your assessment as well. Where are we? So let's go back. Here it is. Now, finally, after reading. So once you've finished reading the text and completing all those during reading questions, you will move on to your post-reading questions and the choice board. So as you see, it says complete the post-reading questions and the choice board. Submit the completed choice board and the questions using the submission link below. Please review the success criteria in order to understand the assignment expectations. This assignment is worth 10% of your final grade. Unit 1 is worth 30% of your overall grade, and as you saw from your last summative, it was worth 10%. This one is worth 10% as well. So let's take a look at the choice board and the rubric. Here is your choice board. It says at the top, choose one of the options on the choice board. As you can see, there's many different options for you to complete that can allow you to be successful in this activity. So if you're a musical person, you might want to write a song or a poem based on the topic from the story. If you're a verbal person, you might want to create an interview with a character from the novel. If you're visual, you might want to draw an event from the novel. You can choose any one of these activities. You choose one bullet. This is a bullet. You don't choose one full square. Okay? So once again, you choose one bullet. Bullet, not one full square. Okay? So you're selecting your activity, and then once you've selected your activity, you're going to be moving on to actually completing your activity. You might say to yourself, well, what is expected of me in this activity? This is where your choice board success criteria comes into play. If we open it up here, you can see these are all of the components that are expected of you for the choice board. Your response must be typed, so you cannot take a picture of your response and then send it to me, unless you are choosing to draw a picture from this short story. Then you are able to do it by hand. You must complete a rough copy along with a good copy. You must show noticeable revisions. What I mean by noticeable revisions is the good copy and the rough draft need to be very different. So if you're making changes, you might want to highlight the words that you spelled wrong in the first draft and then make those changes in the good draft. You must include a title page. If you are choosing to do an interview, you need to have a minimum of 10 analytical questions with answers that reflect on details from the text. What I mean by analytical is open, big questions. So if you do a closed question, it might say something like, what is your name? There's only one possible response to that question. So with that being said, you need to create questions that have multiple responses to them and that have long responses, so it shows critical and creative thinking. If you're choosing to do any one of the written pieces, you need to complete 1 to 2 pages minimum, typed and double-spaced, or 4 pages handwritten. You're not going to worry about the handwritten though, because you're only going to be typing everything. If you're completing scripts, you want 5 pages minimum with creative dialogue and include specific details from the text. If you're doing a drawing, it must be done on 11 by 15 white paper and include details from the text, color, neatness, and creativity. Songs include 4 stanzas and 2 choruses, creative elements, and include details from the text. Poems include 5 stanzas with a notable rhyming pattern, creative elements, and details from the text. Please note these are the expectations based on the most common choices. If the criteria for the choice you selected is not listed, please conference with me and ask me what is expected. The key to this choice board is time and effort. Do not rush this project as it's worth 10% of your final grade. Take the time and enjoy the creativity that comes attached to this assignment. Finally, once you're finished completing your choice board along with your post-reading questions, you will submit them to the Dropbox using this link here. It says right here, submit your completed choice board, rough draft, and the post-reading questions in the same document. Be sure to review the success criteria before submitting to ensure you have met all the expectations. Use the link below. Thanks and good luck.